embroiderers do I have here? How many embroiderers do applique? Okay, I saw one of these and I saw a couple hands not go back up. The ones that don't do applique, why don't you do it?
Because you haven't told me why yet.
Well, why don't you, why do you do that?
We've done a few. I think there's more possibility and more room to do a lot more.
Okay.
But I'm just not sure what this is doing that.
The people that didn't raise their hands that embroider that don't do applique, do any of you find it difficult? Okay, so how many want to do applique? How's that? Okay. Applique is a really great process. With the applique, if you're doing direct embroidery and if you're going to go your shoulder to shoulder on something, somebody mixed up my book here. If you're going to do shoulder to shoulder on something like that, and if you do direct embroidery on two colors, you could be into it for how many stitches? 50,000? 60,000? Okay. Doing applique, depending upon what type of material you want to use, you can be into it for a two color. You can be into it for, let's just say 6,000 stitches. So you go from 50, 60,000 stitches to 6,000 stitches. It's got the perceived value because it's sewn on. You're going to get more money for it. If you did the 50 or 60,000 direct embroidered stitch as opposed to an applique, you might get more money with the 60,000 full embroidered, but for the $1 or $2 less that I'm going to get for my applique, I'm tying up my machine for either 6 minutes or an hour. Time is money. And if I can reduce the amount of time I'm into my production and still gather the same amount of money, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it all day long. Okay? You can embroider on a multitude of different items. You can do felts, you can do twills, you can do denims, you can do leathers, you can do, we have our rip away process, which I've put in the book. Our rip away will give you the glitter flake, the thermal film, the flock, or the 3M reflective. We're going to touch on that 3M reflective in a bit. Right now, one of the hottest things in applique is the glitter flake and the thermal film. The glitter flake because it gives you that wow factor. When somebody's walking around and they've got glitter flake on their shirt, it gets noticed. When somebody's, you know, like I'm noticing her shirt, she's got glitter flake on it with a bunch of rhinestones on it. You've got a wow factor. You walk down the street, people notice that shirt because it sparkles. The thermal film has also got a wow factor because it looks like leather. It looks like you've embroidered on leather. Now again, you guys are all business owners. Time is money, right? When you sit there and who does their own digitizing here? Okay, 2 people. When you digitize up a file, you're spending time. And again, time is money. I can take a file now, digitize it up one time, make my design, and then if I sew out some tackle twill and then decide I want to do a rip away process to get a 2-color thing going, I can do my tackle twill, I can do my glitter flake. Well, most every woman in the world will wear that garment in a glitter flake. Most every man in the world will not. But I'm going to take that same design that I spent the time on, and instead of dropping glitter flake on it, I'm going to drop thermal film on it. Now I'm taking that file and I'm getting 2 uses out of it. Okay? Now if I wanted to appeal to the general population, I can go into something like my flock. The flock, both men and women will use it alike. Now we'll touch on the 3M reflective. Police, fire, EMS, school crossing guards, construction workers. You can run that 3M material through your CAD cut machine and cut it out. The police department, they're going to say, hey, we're putting it on a $250 tactical jacket. We would like it sewn on. There's really not a reflective twill out there. So you can take the 3M reflective, which is ANSI certified, sew it on as a rip-away applique, tear it off, run it through your heat press, give it to the local police department. They're going to love it. Okay? How many folks here have a cutter? How many have a cutter strong enough to cut twill? Okay, if you have like a Roland or a Graph Tech, okay, I see some heads shaking, your cutters will cut twill. So everything that we're doing, you guys have the capability of doing it. Do you have digitizing software? Okay. Do you have embroidery equipment? Okay. If you don't have digitizing software, you can still accomplish this. In that packet, there is a section on the Stahls Twill Stitch Pro Plus. The Twill Stitch Pro Plus is basically it's an applique digitizing software that with a couple clicks of a mouse, I can have something digitized. It's a relatively simple program. It also has about 150 direct embroidered fonts into it. Who here designs in either CorelDRAW, Adobe Illustrator, CADWorks Live, FlexiSign? Okay. If you have a cutter and you use one of those programs, you can now design up whatever it is you want to make, send it to your cutter, cut your twill, take that same design you did, bring it into the Stahls Twill Stitch Pro Plus, and digitize it, a couple clicks of the mouse, save it on a jump drive, bring it over to your embroidery machine, and sew it out. Literally less than 5 clicks of a mouse. So if you don't have digitizing software, this is something you want to take a look at getting. All right? And I'm going to show you how easy it is. If you take a look at the monitor, I'm going to do a real quick design here. I've done this, and I've got some pieces sewn out back here right now. I'm just going to draw a box. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to size my box to a 6x6. And of course, I'm going to give it some color so I can see it. Then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a letter in there. I'm doing this in CorelDRAW right now. Okay, I'm going to give, because I want to do a rip away, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a thicker font. Because if you're going to do rip away, you're going to be following the outer lines of whatever it is you're doing. So if you're too close together and you get the stitches, because you're going to be using an applique stitch, if they get too close together, you're going to have an issue at the end at the post process. So whenever you're going to do like lettering or really anything, you want to give yourself a little bit more beef. So I'm going to pop in, you know, a simple athletic font. Okay, we'll change the color. Now I got 2 colors, and here's where I asked about all the different design programs. Right now I'm doing it in CorelDRAW. If you're doing it in CADWorks Live, which is free through Stahls, or you're doing it in like a FlexiSign or a CorelDRAW or a multitude of other programs, you'd want to export it out in the HPGL format, which is a standard plot file. That plot file, in CADWorks Live, there's 2 of them. There's the PLT and the PLTX. Don't choose the X. Export it out as a plot file. And then I'm going to open up my Twill Stitch Pro. Let's get rid of that real quick. I'm going to start with a new file. Okay, for those of you that have digitizing software, a lot of this will look familiar. You've got the grids going on, you've got your lassos, your point pickers. Now I'm going to import that file. I'm going to import my artwork. The STA3. open it up. There it is. Right here it's showing me two colors. It's showing me the red and it's showing me the light blue. That is my sewing order. It's going to sew the red foreground first, the blue background second. I'm seeing people shake their head. Of course you can't do that. You want to do the background first. So all I'm going to do is pick it up and switch the order around. So now I have my blue, I have my red. Now I'm going to digitize this. Now seriously, I don't want anybody to blink because I'm going to digitize this like that. So everybody watch the screen. I'm going to do my outer edge as just a simple zigzag. I'm going to do my inner edge as an applique file. Boom, I'm done. I can now take this and after I have my twill cut, if I'm going to do the inner as a rip away applique, so I have my applique file, it's done. Pardon me? The outer is a zigzag. I did a simple zigzag. I'm basically ready to sew it out, all right? Like I said, it's quick. Now, that's the easy part. The hard part is obviously hooping up the garments, okay? But really, it really is that easy. There will be a couple of extra steps I'll go into. You know, I'm gonna do some editing. If you look up at the screen, I have all my property block right here. Okay, so I can go in, I can change the width of my stitch, I can change my density. Oh, I want a placement line because I want to know where I have to put the piece of twill, right? I might want to tack it down, I might not. Same thing here. I'm going to need a placement line so I know whether or not I cut my piece big enough. If I know I cut it big enough, I'll just take that off because I'm just going to drop a block of the glitter flake down. It's going to sew out and I'm going to tear it off. I'm going to take a look on the glitter flake or any of the ripaways. That density is going to be key to me. We have it set up at a 0.40 density. Depending upon the actual file I'm using, I might play with that. I'll go anywhere from a 0.36 to a 0.40 density. All right, on something like this, I know I can get away with a 0.38. So I just add a little bit of density. Then I turn around and I save it to my jump drive, bring it to my machine, load it up, load my colors, and I'm ready to sew it out. It really is that quick and that easy. Once I'm done sewing it out, I'm going to have something that looks like that, okay? Because I sewed my tackle twill down, I sewed my glitter flake down, I'm ready to go. Okay, now I have this. Now, as easy as it was for me to tear off what I didn't want, it's that easy for me to tear off what I do want. So my post process is run it over to heat press, seal it for 10 to 15 seconds, I'm done. Now I've got a rip away applique. If I didn't want to do it that way, I could always take the S that I designed up and put on the screen, run it through one of my cutters, and I've seen a lot of people that have the cutters that'll do it, and I can cut the twill, cut the second piece of twill, do my white, run another trace stitch for my blue letter, put that down, sew that on, I'm done. I don't even have to heat press it. Anytime I do twill, I'm using the Stahls twill. It's got a heat seal adhesive on the back. I do it because it's going to remove some of that puckering. It's going to look crisp and clean when it leaves the shop. But now you have that, now you have a wow factor, okay? Now I have shirts done up.
Sorry, can we use our custom-made Easies that we already have with the strip away?
That's a very good question. She asked if you can use the custom-made Easy. Yes, if you're on an applique stitch, okay? If you have an applique stitch with, you know, a two-color applique stitch with now, if you had a zigzag stitch on your base and an applique stitch on your foreground because you wanted to get that three-color custom-made Easy, you could do that too, okay? You have to have that applique stitch though. A zigzag, you're not going to be able to do the rip away.
Right, okay.
It's just not going to work.
Right.
We've tried.
So the ones we already have, then we have the application.
Yes, yes, yes. And the reason that's a great question, we're going to go back to it. time is money. You've already invested in that custom made easy sew file, which that custom made easy is the precursor to our any word anyway. Okay, you can go into any word anyway. We can cut the twill for you. We can write the sew file for you. We do charge for the sew file. Okay, but you have it and it's good forever until, you know, yeah, it's good forever. If you have those sew files now, you can take what's old again and make it new. Okay, a lot of things like the felt. Stahls started out as the Stahls felt lettering company, or the Stahls stamping felt lettering company, and started out stamping out felt letters. It was a felt letter company. Felt kind of went by the wayside. Felt now, what's old is new again. Felt is now coming back huge. The downside to the felt, you have to have a flatbed cutter. You cannot cut it on a roll cutter. So your Rollins and your Graphtex won't cut felt. But the upside to the felt is relatively inexpensive. If we write the sew program for you, you can sit there and run it as a single stitch. You don't have to do a zigzag or an applique stitch. You can just do a running stitch and it comes out absolutely gorgeous. Okay, that one's got running stitch on the inside of it. It's got an applique stitch on the outside of it. That's a 3-color job. It's got the very classic look. It's old. It's old school, but it's beautiful. And it's coming back, and of course it's coming back in a big way. I think, you know, here's something like this. In the Stahls any word anyway, you're probably, on a dozen pieces, you're probably looking at maybe $5, $6 each for something like this. Okay, and with just a run stitch on it, you're maybe looking at 1,200 stitches. And again, time is money. You put this on an $8.50 Gildan hoodie you get out of Sanmar, put something, you know, $6 on it, you're at $13. You're getting more than $20 for it. You've got 1,200 stitches, and if you run your embroidery machine slow at 600 stitches a minute, it's a 2-minute run. If you run it at 1,000 stitches a minute, it's a 1.5-minute run. Okay, so you can't hoop it quick enough to get them in and out. But you're getting a premium for this. I mean, you're maximizing your profit. You're using the same garment. And in your case, you're using the same files. Okay? And in your case, if you've got some that are already applique file, if you already have the satin stitch on it, you don't have to buy anything other than the thermal film or the glitter flake or the 3M reflective or the flock. You're ready to go. You're regurgitating those files, making more money with them, which again, it's a good thing. Okay, but you do get a wow factor. If everybody wants to come up and grab a shirt, I've got thermal, well, you know what, I'll hand them out. I know the guys aren't going to want. You guys want a glitter flake? You're from the same company. You know, one of each. I've got glitter flake. Now, these have already been obviously sewn out. You want to pass that one down? These have already been sewn out. One of those?
Yep.
Okay. They're all the same. Oops, sorry.
It's okay.
Now, here's where you get the wow factor. All I did here was take 2 pieces of twill. I took a red piece of twill and a white piece of twill. Put them together. Drop them down onto the garment, and it's a zigzag stitch. I probably, in that zigzag, I'm going to guess high, we'll just say 7,000. Okay? 7,000 stitches. The whole entire thing there, everything, was about 24,000 stitches. Again, yeah, it's not a lot when you're talking a full thing. If you start ripping it away, because you're going to see between the twill and the glitter flake and the thermal film all together, material-wise, you probably have, we'll just say conservatively, $2.50, $3, if that. Twill is very inexpensive. It's a very inexpensive material. When you go by the yard and base it on the yard, your glitter flake and your thermal film is more expensive than the twill. So I'm going to say conservatively $3. We're probably closer to the $2.50 range, $2 range. Now, as you sit there and rip it away, you'll start to see the entire design come. And if you look at it, if you take a look at the thermal film, now this, you're not done once you rip it away. It's got to be heat pressed, but you're going to look at the thermal film and you're going to see it's going to have a leather look to it. So it's going to have a rich leather look that a man would wear. Obviously, not many men want to wear the glitter flake. And I know I don't want to stereotype, but realistically, the glitter flake is a very big thing for women. Flip side, men like the thermal film. They like that leather look. A lot of women like the leather look, but men really like it. Going back to the files that you have time invested in, or you have money invested in, now you can use the same file and get 2 different looks. Actually, you can use the same file and get 3 different looks because I didn't do any of the flock. The flock appeals to both men and women alike. It's kind of got that velvety feel, almost looks like a felt, but it's a little bit thinner. Okay? So now basically what you have is you actually have this wow factor. You look at it and it's like looking at her shirt. She's got the glitter flake, the rhinestones, people see it, it pops. Your customers look and they're going to say, wow, where'd you get that? How did you make that? Can you make me one? Do I have any questions so far?
Okay, so it's $24,000.
How do you price it? All depends. What's your market like? I'm from Detroit. Define bad. Okay.
They like cheap things.
Okay. If they like cheap things, or no, that's a fair question. If they like cheap things, I would say do something different. You could do the same. And what I mean by do something different, embroidery, utilizing an embroidery machine, realistically, a cone of thread. The folks at Madeira gave you guys everyone a cone of thread and a cone of the variegated thread, as well as their thread color charts, backing information, and that kind of thing, so you have some reference material. But that cone of thread, 5,000 meters, is, let's say, $7. All right? You do an embroidery like your left chest logo there, you probably got about 8,000 to 10,000 stitches in that. Thread-wise, if I break it down, and I'm not going to do math in my head, but you got less than 25 cents on that shirt, all right? The cost in the embroidery or the applique is right there at the machine. That's the cost of it. So, if you're in an area where they want cheap, realistically, and I know this is I don't want to sound cruel, it's not for them. All right? You're in business to make money. You spent the money, you invested in the equipment. You have to get a return on that investment. I don't know if you've gone to Zach Ellsworth's shop yet. You've got to get that return on your investment. And your services shouldn't be given away. You're in the business to make money. There's one thing about discounting, there's one thing about giving it away. You're going to have a customer that you may have that does $20,000 a year with you, and they want 3 of these shirts. You might want to discount it, give it away. That's fine because it's a big account. If it's somebody just off the street, no, this is what it is. Hold firm to your price. You know, you've got 26,000 stitches in it, which means you got a half hour tied up on your machine, and if you've got a Tajima one-hand machine, you got a half hour tied up in a $25,000 machine. You earn that, you bust your butt to buy that machine. You've got that money coming to you. You really do. However, there's always a however. You have options. That material that you just ripped away is the glitter flake. If you have a cutter, you can run the glitter flake through your cutter. It's also the thermal film. You can run the thermal film through your cutter. The twill, you could run it through your cutter, but you'd still have to sew it. So you can buy the flock. It's got a fabric look to it. So take that same design, cut out the glitter flake, cut out the thermal film, cut out the flock, put the pieces together. It's going to take you less time. You're going to have to cut it and weed it, but if you do it in the right way and set up your design right, you can weed it relatively quickly, drop it down, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, boom. Now you have the same design in flock, thermal film, and glitter flake. You can give it to your customer for less money because you did it with a heat press. And I wouldn't go too much, I mean, I'm going to go a little bit less, but again, you have money tied up in those heat presses. Again, you've got to get a return on your investment. And again, if they don't like the price and they're going to go somewhere else, so long as somebody's not undercutting you, if they're giving it away and they're not making any money, they're not going to keep their lights on for long. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? Okay, so now we're going to go back into the Twill Stitch Pro because everybody saw, how am I on time? Okay, everybody saw how easy this is to do. Now, it's still not done. Towards the end, we're going to jump up onto the heat presses. They got to be heat pressed for the final seal. All right, but you saw how easy the Twill Stitch Pro was. It is a very easy program. It's about a $500 standalone program. It comes with 150 direct embroidered fonts. So you can sit there, design something up, send it to your cutter, take that PLT file, bring it in, and if you just have some designs, but then you want to, you do a high school design, Liberty, or Lincoln High School, and you just want to write high school in direct embroidery, you can go in there and direct embroider it with this tab right here. Click into that, you've got 150 different fonts. In the booklet, it shows you all the fonts there. But also in that booklet, we have the quick start. I put the quick start guide in there. And the reason I did that, when I show people this program, including experienced embroiderers, they look at that and they say, it can't be that easy. It is. I personally have a flatbed cutter. It was a lot of money. Came with a really expensive software program. A lot more than $500. I like the cutter. I still use the cutter. But when I go to digitize up for my applique, I go right to Twill Stitch Pro. It is that much easier to use than any other program I've ever used. Okay? Reason I put the quick start guide in there. Again, it's a $400 or $500 program. On the Stahls website, you can go onto the website, you can download a trial version of it. It will do everything that my program will do, with the exception of allow you to save the file and stitch out. That's where we get our return on our investment. However, I have my business card up here. If anybody is interested in pursuing this program, go in, download the file, download the software from the Stahls website, all right? Go in and start playing with it. You have the quick start guide. Go in and play with it and see how easy it is to use. Make sure you open up the demo version. Then, if you're looking at wanting to see how this is going to sew out, take my card, pick up the phone, call me. Send me a design. While we're on the phone, the two of us will go over that design. Click here, you're going to tell me. I'm going to be your hands. You tell me what you want. I do it all up. I save it as a sewable file. I email it to you. You then take it and bring it to your embroidery machine and sew it out. And you'll see what a nice stitch it lays. You can change it. I'm going to want, obviously, when I get into here, I have all of my properties. I can change my densities. I can put my placement line. I can put tack down lines. I can go in, change densities. If I'm doing text, I'm going to have to change my offsets on the inside cavities of like your A's, your D's, your P's, your R's, that kind of thing. All right. Those are the little minor details you have to think about. But my dad used to tell me the devil's in the details, and I always sweat them. So even though it only took me a couple clicks of the mouse to digitize this file, I'll go in and spend another, I'll spend 10, 15 minutes going in and hitting every single little detail. But once I'm done, like your custom 80s, your Any Word, Anyway, that file's done. I own it. I've taken the time. Now, when I digitize this file, I can do so many things with just that file. One file, multiple uses. I get a bling factor. I get a leather factor, I can get a flock factor, I could get a safety factor if I put in the 3M reflective. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. In the book, we also put in, I've got some information on the rip-away applique, because that's the rip-away applique. That's the hottest thing on the market right now in applique. And as much as I like the glitter flake and seeing it, and obviously I'm never going to wear it, and I like the thermal film, the glitter flake is by far head and shoulders above the rest. The biggest thing in applique right now is that rip-away glitter flake, because when people see it, they go wow, and they look, and you get that wow factor. Okay. The other nice thing about that with the rip-away, if you don't want to use twill, so long as you have a satin file set up, you can go in, drop something down, sew it out, rip it away, heat press it. There, you've got an applique. You've got a sewn look applique. Again, you're charging a premium for it, so you're going to get the money for it. Also in the book, when you start getting into applique, people are always going to ask you about split fronts. They don't say split fronts because most people don't know what a split front is. It's not in the business. They'll say, hey, can you do a button-down baseball jersey? Okay? How many here people do split fronts? How many like split fronts? Okay. Split front, I've got some directions in there on how to do split fronts. Split fronts aren't the easiest thing in the world to do. But once you get a system, because you're hooping it twice and you want to make sure everything lines up, in there are some directions on how to do it, how to set up a system. Again, as much science as the applique is, there's also a little bit of artwork, a little bit of art thrown in there. So when you get your system, if it works, great. I would never ever do a split front. Never. One of my friends that worked at Stahls said, hey, can you do my son's baseball jersey? Well, after I did about 3 or 4 of them, it was just like, oh, this is easy. I don't even have to look. Boom, boom, boom. Once you get a rhythm to it, it becomes very easy. You know, just like anything else. Regular applique work, simple. I think it's easier than direct embroidery, at least from the setup stages of digitizing. Okay? Who here does their own digitizing? Just you. Okay, you two. The rest of you, I take it, send it out. Okay? I do my own digitizing because I want it now. Okay? If I didn't want it now, yeah, I'd probably send it out too. Stahls has Artvark, you know, the Artvark, I think it's artvarkexpress.com. They do wonderful digitizing. When my wife needs something digitized and she can wait, she doesn't bother me with it. I think she sends it to Artvark. So, you know, you have options with us as far as digitizing goes as well. Then, of course, we go into cutters. Yes. Oh, 5 minutes. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to do this really quick because we still got to hit to the heat press. Cutters. If you have a, you know, like a Graphtec or a Roland or a Puma that have servo motors on it, you have cutters that are able to cut your twill. Okay. Also in the book for some reference material, there's some information on embroidery equipment if you're looking at getting into this, if you're not into it. I also have reference material from Madeira, sent me information on backing. All right. They also sent the threads and the color chart. There is one thing I do want to point out for all the embroiderers. Right here. I put this sheet in here. When I started embroidering, I found this. It's a 4-page little thing. I found this to be one of the most useful 4 pages I have ever seen in the business. It's a needle guide. And it tells you, when you go through it, what the needles are, and it tells you what needle you should be using for what material you're embroidering on. And that includes applique. If you've seen it, you know how good it, you know what a good resource it is. If you've never seen it, look at it. It's a great resource. You may never ever use it, but it's something good to have. Okay? Any questions so far? Because I'm probably down to 4 minutes. Okay, we have a heat press here set up. If you want to heat seal your garments to take with you. Make sure you got all the cavities pulled out. You don't have all the cavities pulled out.
Yeah.
He's having
I'll pull it out.
Oh, you didn't
Yeah,
do this on
garbage
Tool
right
Stitch
there.
Pro, did you?
Pardon me?
Did you do this on Tool Stitch Pro?
Good question here. She asked me if I did that on Twill Stitch Pro. I did.
Oh, you did.
I did. I did. When we were putting this entire open house together, I had to come up with the design. I came up with the general design. I gave it to one of the artists back at Stahls. They gave me a cleaned up design that was edited. I took his, I edited even more, and then I took that file, brought it into my Twill Stitch Pro, digitized that to Twill Stitch Pro, and then I sent it down to DFC. They then changed it because they didn't do the kiss cut. I wanted the twill kiss cut, and they didn't have time to do it. They had to hurry up, and that's why I have the big red and the small white.
And they
I don't know what they use.
They don't have any booklets, though, do they?
What do you mean booklets?
On Twill Stitch Pro.
There's not really a booklet, but I gave the quick start guide in that thing, so you're able to. You can download it for free, and then pull out the. You can download it for free. There's a demo version there, and then what you can do is you can pull up that quick start guide. Oh, you have the manual right on it. Take my card and call me.
Okay.
I'll show you exactly where to go. You can print out a PDF of it. It's on the
really?
program itself. Yes.
Because I've been looking for it. I don't even know where it is.
It's on the program itself because it's like 400 and some pages, but some of those pages you really don't need to look at.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I love it though.
That's a great program.
I use it more than my pajama.
Oh, me too. Like I said, I have a flatbed cutter that came with a program. It's like a $7,000 cutter. The cutter itself is only worth $2,000. It's all in the software, and I go to Twill Stitch Pro. Yeah, it's.
I love the fonts.
See what he's doing.
Oh,
He's finishing weeding his feet.
So if we were interested, because we just bought our company a couple months ago,